Hi friends and viewers, and welcome back to my channel Ceasefire. It's really good to have you back today for another recipe that I'm going to do today, a little bit different. This one's going to incorporate some foraging, so looking for plants that are not typically used by people to make different recipes. And you can find this particular ingredient, in my case, right here on my walkway that I've made like a crushed gravel rockway. And it's called purslane. So I'm just going to pick a piece off and show you what it kind of looks like. So I'm going to bring it a little bit closer. So as you can see, the purslane, it's almost like bubbly, sort of fat looking leaves, and they're on stalks like this. You just look it up before harvesting anything that you find in the wild, or if you're doing any type of foraging, you want to make sure that you're doing it safely and you're not just picking random things, because some things could be toxic or could make you have upset stomach. Purslane is a plant that, for me, grows all on my rockery that I've got, and so because I don't spray it and I don't use chemicals or anything like that, I know that it's safe to eat, and so I have no problem using it. And what I'm going to do today is use this purslane, and I'm going to make pesto out of it. So instead of using basil, I'm going to use the purslane in my recipe today. And I'm going to show you how to do that in the next little part of the video. I'm just going to pick the purslane. What I'm going to do is, because I have so much of it, I'm going to use just the leaves and not as much of the stalks and the stems on it. They're a bit thicker anyway at this point, so they might be a bit woody, but the leaves are nice and juicy, and you can eat them just like that, like a salad. So you can eat them fresh, or you can use them in recipes. So welcome again, and here we go. Let's learn how to make purslane pesto. Hi, welcome back, and we are back in my kitchen now so that I can start putting all of this together and create our pesto made of purslane. So again, like I said before, I was going to pluck off just the leaf parts of the purslane and not use the stalks, because I have so much of it. It basically, to recap, it grows on poor soil locations, in between cracks of cement even, you'll find it growing out of there. I remember as a kid back on my parents' orchard, and I'd find it it's coming out of broken concrete or cement, and thinking that was such a weird plant to be growing there. It's a succulent, and it likes poor soil conditions. Like I said, in my case, it just grows right on my rock pathways, and I just pull them out, use them, part of it, and then the rest of it I just put into my green bin or give it to the chickens, because the chickens do love it. So back to the recipe itself, I've got 600 grams here of purslane, and you can divide this recipe by 3, for example, and do 200 grams if that's all you've got. But I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing here. So these are the portions that I'm using. You're welcome to divide it by 3 if you want to make it a much smaller amount. I'm going to be freeze drying my purslane pesto. I have those of you that know that I kind of have this freeze drying machine, and so I will end up putting my pesto into the freeze dryer. It pulls all the moisture out and dehydrates it. And then I use the pesto later throughout the whole entire year, just by adding liquid back into it to rehydrate the pesto. And what I add is water and olive oil to it, and then it brings it all back to use in my recipes on pastas or on chicken or even fish. So again, I've got 600 grams here of the purslane, and it's just pulled off of the stalks. I've got about 150 to 160 grams of shredded Parmesan cheese, and then the same amount of pine nuts. Now, where I live in the Okanagan of British Columbia in Canada, pine nuts are considered pretty expensive by most people, and some people don't prefer to use pine nuts because of the cost. So you're welcome to use walnuts. If pine nuts are expensive in your area as well, you're welcome to use walnuts in place of it. It's a really good substitution. But in my case, I've got the pine nuts here, 150 grams. And about 2 lemons in my recipe, 1.5, 2 lemons for this amount. So I'm going to be squeezing that into it as well. And I've got a whole head of garlic here, but I'm probably only going to use 10 cloves of it if there's more than 10 in here. I think 10 should do it for this recipe, 9 or 10. And then I've got my salt, and that's just to taste. You just add the salt until it's the right taste for yourself. And you can use a mortar and pestle to crush all of this together. And then in this amount, if I was going to be using olive oil here, making it fresh, I'd be using approximately 14 or 15 tablespoons of olive oil to bind it all together. But like I said, in my case, for today, I'm not using olive oil today because I'm going to be reserving that olive oil to use later when I rehydrate my pesto later. So those are the ingredients and the amounts to use, and I'm going to throw them all into my food processor, and I'll show you what the final product looks like in a few seconds. Okay, so I finished with the food processor, and I forgot how delicious it is when it's fresh like this. The creaminess of the cheese, the nutty flavor from the pine nuts, the garlic, of course, this smells so good. And with the lemon juice, so fresh, it just brings out the beautiful flavor. So I've food processed it until it became like a creamy, delicious slurry like this. And of course, if I was going to be serving it right now, I'd be using olive oil as well in there to give it that extra little bit of creaminess as well. But like I said, I didn't add any olive oil to this particular batch because I'm going to be freeze drying it in my freeze dryer, and I don't want to add any oil to my pesto because of that. So again, I highly recommend it. I forgot how amazing this tastes. I just had a little tiny bit just to see what it was like, and I forgot how delicious it actually is fresh like this. Again, here's the plant. Turn this into this, and that 600 grams of leaves went all the way down to this much. That's all that's left behind because of how it crushes all down. So there you go, there you have it. There is the pesto made from purslane. Excellent if you have purslane growing in your yard. If you find it while you're foraging, maybe going for a walk up in the woods somewhere, and you find some purslane and you can identify it properly and it's safe to do so, go ahead and try this purslane pesto recipe. And finally, for some people, they are not big fans of the flavor of basil. It's a bit too strong. This purslane is not as strong of a flavor as you would find in basil. So this is also a very good alternative for those who just simply don't like the taste of basil pesto because it's a bit too strong. You can make it out of purslane. So I hope you enjoyed my video, and please try it. You will not be disappointed. It is so good. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next video.